A rapper whose star was on the rise in the music industry has been killed.
For you, rapper Young Dolph has now been shot and killed in Memphis.
On the 17th of November 2021, Memphis and the entire hip-hop industry was rocked by the death of Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., alias Young Dolph. It did not take long for people to start pointing fingers at his longtime enemy, Yo Gotti, and blaming him for Young Dolph's death. For 2 years now, there has been tension as people believe Yo Gotti's life may be in danger because of retaliation attacks. So how has life been for Yo Gotti since Young Dolph's passing? Young Dolph's death. For many hip-hop fans who had followed the beef between Yo Gotti and Young Dolph throughout the years, it was obvious who was behind it. The two rappers had been going at each other hard for years as they both tried to claim the title King of Memphis. While Young Dolph's life and career came to a tragic end in 2021, Yo Gotti's life has seen its fair share of ups and downs. From cops having to protect his restaurant and concerts from fear of revenge attacks, to participating in worthy causes for his community and the hip-hop industry. Barely a month after Young Dolph's demise, there were rumors of trouble in Yo Gotti's camp. According to sources, Yo Gotti had dropped one of his best artists from his record label, Collective Music Group, CMG. The artist was none other than Black Youngstar. So why would Yo Gotti want to get rid of one of his most successful artists? First, it is important to remember that Black Youngstar was constantly dissing and threatening Young Dolph. He would even go to Young Dolph's block with goons armed with guns threatening the Memphis rapper.
Where we at right now, cuz?
Well, after Young Dolph's tragic death, Black Youngstar released the music video to his track I'm Assuming. In the music video, he walked around a cemetery and showed a gravestone with the name Thornton, Dolph's last name, on it. That was not even the worst part. Only a few days prior, Black Youngstar had gone ahead and performed Shake Some, his 2016 diss track aimed at Dolph, to a large crowd in a Texas nightclub. The performance was captured on camera and circulated on social media. It looks like Black Youngstar was not ready to let go of his beef with the late Young Dolph, as the song's lyrics were full of disrespect towards the late rapper. In the clip, pauses during the song's hook to light up a blunt. Afterward, he tells the DJ to stop the song so he can spit his second verse a cappella style. Young Dolph Thornton wanna play Mac 11, Smith & Wesson, extended clip, 100 rounds. Though how the f you the king of Memphis? You ain't from the city, you from Chicago. Boy, you better lay low. Killers move when I say so, Youngstar raps. From the song, anyone could have thought that Black Youngstar was now bragging and feeling himself after successfully putting a hit out on his eye. My little nigga rob and steady killing, raping. All these lil niggas around me killers, any nigga play with me, lil nigga. I swear to God they ain't gon' breath, lil nigga Dolph. You ain't put in no work. You a whore on the low talking about you the plug best friend. You ain't selling no work, he rapped. With tension in the air amidst revenge attacks against Yo Gotti, Black Youngstar was only fanning the flames. He was making it seem like he and Yo Gotti had finally gotten rid of their op and were now relishing in the moment. What's worse, he was also inviting attention from the authorities. Whichever way you look at it, Black Youngstar was becoming a liability to Yo Gotti. Therefore, no one was surprised when rumors started spreading that Yo Gotti was going to drop Youngstar from CMG. Black Youngstar received a lot of backlash for his actions, but the rapper couldn't care less, as he took to Instagram to let his feelings known about the situation. I'm the type of nigga who ain't never sat back and looked for nobody to feel sorry F.A. me. I come from the heart of South Memphis where you get no sympathy. Don't even know what that is. With that being said, I could give two f**ks what the world think about me, the rapper wrote. With many people on his back for his actions, he refused to apologize for performing the diss song, but he said that his actions were put under this magnifying glass, and that every little thing he did or said received negativity because he is famous. However, reports that he had been dropped from his label were false, as Yo Gotti was forced to come out and deny the rumor in a series of tweets, as he labeled them as fake news. He also went ahead and said that the blogs were lying about the whole situation. I'm seeing too much rap cap on these blogs, the rapper wrote. He also praised Black Youngstar for being a boss, and assured everyone that he would not drop him. Lil bro a boss, he can't be dropped, Yo Gotti tweeted. He then concluded by telling the blogs to stop mentioning his name in their rumors. P.S. Keep my name out all these rumors, he posted. That was not the only damning rumor that circulated on the internet regarding Yo Gotti and Young Dolph's death. In January 2022, reports surfaced that an attorney who previously represented Black Youngstar and Yo Gotti was now representing the men who were accused of killing Young Dolph. Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith were arrested and charged for Dolph's death, while a third person, Shundale Barnett, was arrested by U.S. Marshals and charged with accessory after the fact for helping Johnson while he was on the run from authorities in Indiana. This would have been a wild move by Yo Gotti, as it would immediately have had people pointing fingers at him yet again for the death of Young Dolph. However, yet again, these allegations were false. The attorney took to Instagram to clear his name. After reading a few recent articles and receiving numerous phone calls and text messages from friends and colleagues, it has come to my attention that my name and law firm have been associated with an individual who was recently arrested for the murder of Adolph Thornton Jr., also known as Young Dolph, he wrote. At this time, I would like to dispel any rumors and and/or misinformation that relates to my representation involving anyone charged in the murder of Adolph Thornton Jr., at no time have I now or ever been retained to represent any of the individuals arrested for the murder of young Dolph. Apart from controversy surrounding the death of his fiercest op, Yo Gotti has been involved in good causes. In 2020, Gotti partnered with Jay-Z to launch a fight that aimed at putting a stop to the literal death sentences imposed on inmates through the inhumane, violent, and torturous conditions created by Parchman prison officials. The docuseries exposing Parchman followed Jay-Z and Yo Gotti as they worked alongside a group of inmates to reform the Mississippi Department of Corrections. The rappers filed a lawsuit alleging that inmates died as a result of years of severe understaffing and neglect. In a second lawsuit, they spoke on behalf of 152 prisoners and criticized the facility for its barbaric conditions and lack of medical care. The rappers also filed legal documents claiming that Parchman was non-compliant with COVID-19 guidelines at the peak of the pandemic. However, the lawsuits were dropped in 2023 after major improvements were made to the prison, providing the inmates humane living conditions. According to reports, the efforts by Yo Gotti and Jay-Z had led to the prison making various improvements, which included 2 functioning ambulances at the medical center at Parchman, replacing an outdated van, new stainless steel showers, toilets, and sinks, upgraded heating, air conditioning, ventilation and plumbing systems, recreational activities such as basketball, flag football, and boxing, the replacement of broken tiles and the removal of mold, and the opening of kitchen operations in additional units. Apart from prison reforms, Yo Gotti was also involved in pushing for the rap music on trial bill, which would see rap lyrics not used in court as evidence for crimes. This stemmed from a number of cases where artists' songs were used as evidence in court, the most famous one being Tekashi 6ix9ine. Specifically, the bill would limit the admissibility of a defendant's song lyrics or other forms of creative expression as evidence of an alleged crime. Instead, prosecutors would have to prove that musical lyrics are literal rather than figurative or fictional, using clear and convincing evidence. Despite his efforts to help the community and the hip-hop industry, Yo Gotti remains a target of violence. It is highly suspected that the threats towards his life have something to do with young Dolph's death, especially after he posted an ominous message on his Instagram that morning before the shooting took place. "Good morning. Don't value the things you don't have over the things you do," Yo Gotti posted. So how was young Dolph killed, and how have people violently taken revenge for his death? Retaliation for Yo Gotti. Young Dolph was not only a rapper, he was a father and an inspiration to many in his community. His death left a huge mark among the people of Memphis. His death brought the city to a standstill as they found it hard to come to terms with what had happened. On that day, the 17th of November 2021, young Dolph was in Memphis doing what many people loved him for, supporting local businesses. The rapper was on his way to one of his favorite spots, Makeda's homemade butter cookie. That day, he was going to buy cookies for his mother. At around noon, Dolph drove around Memphis in his signature camouflage covert. He stopped at a gas station just a short distance away from the bakery to put gas in his vehicle. In a video obtained by TMZ, the rapper can be seen filling up his car with gas before heading off to Makeda's homemade butter cookies, where he would be last seen. His flashy sports car was quite conspicuous. His would-be killers must have seen him driving through Memphis and tailed him as they waited for the perfect opportunity to strike. After leaving the gas station, he drove to the bakery and pulled over at the parking lot a little past noon. He could never have known that he was only moments away from losing his life. He exited his vehicle and made his way into the bakery. That was the green light for his enemies, as they also made their way to the bakery. The attackers pulled up into the parking lot in a 2-door Mercedes-Benz, where 2 men who were completely masked up jumped out of the vehicle. Armed to the teeth with weapons, the 2 walked to the front of the store and opened fire. The aftermath was devastating as the Memphis rapper was hit multiple times. The attackers jumped back into their getaway vehicle and sped off, leaving young Dolph fighting for his life. The rapper had been hit 22 times, and slowly, as he bled out on the floor of his favorite bakery, his life slipped from his fingers. When paramedics came to the scene, it was too late. They tried everything they could to help, but the rapper had passed on. He was pronounced dead at 12:39 p.m. The mayor of Memphis sent his condolences to Dolph's family and friends on Twitter. The tragic shooting death of rap artist young Dolph serves as another reminder of the pain that violent crime brings with it, he tweeted. "My thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends." Immediately, heads turned to his #1 op, Yo Gotti. Shortly after young Dolph was gunned down, rumors started to circulate that there had already been retaliation against 2 of his known rivals, Black Youngstar and Yo Gotti. Some claimed Youngstar's grandmother's house had been shot up, while others said Yo Gotti's restaurant Prive had also been made a target. Journalists were quick to the scene to confirm that the restaurant had not been shot up. However, the rumor caused a lot of tension in Memphis, forcing the cops to take action. Several Memphis Police Department squad cars filled the parking lot of Private, which is located about 10 miles from where Dolph was shot and killed. This was in an effort to prevent possible retaliation attacks. The tension was so high that there were calls for the implementation of a curfew in Memphis.
Several public officials calling for a curfew tonight, fearing acts of retaliation in certain parts of the city after young Dolph is shot and killed.
Luckily, even Black Youngstar's grandma was okay. However, Privé was eventually shut down temporarily by cops, although they did not confirm if there were any threats directed at Gotti or his business, meaning that it may have been nothing more than a precautionary move. However, this was not the only instance where Yo Gotti would get such a scare. Things cooled down for a while as the hip-hop world and Young Dolph's fans slowly started to accept the reality that the rapper was no more. However, in July 2022, reports started circulating that a mass shooting at Yo Gotti's birthday bash concert had been thwarted. Fans were quick to try and make a connection to Young Dolph's death. Had someone decided to take revenge for the slain Memphis rapper? Yo Gotti was hosting his 8th annual birthday bash on July 16, 2022 in his hometown. Concert goers enjoyed a star-studded, drama-free show with some assistance from law enforcement, as it had almost turned bloody. However, it had nothing to do with Young Dolph's death. According to the cops, a man was upset that he and his girl had broken up and had decided to kill himself and people at Yo Gotti's concert. The Memphis PD shared more insight about the potential threat on their Facebook page. The post stated, on Saturday, July 16, 2022, at 2:48 a.m., officers responded to an armed mental consumer call in the 200 block of South Main Street. Upon arriving on the scene, officers were met by the suspect, Elijah Hyman, and his girlfriend. Hyman appeared distraught due to a breakup between him and his girlfriend. The caption continued. Officers were advised that since Hyman and his girlfriend's relationship was coming to an end, he wanted to kill himself and everyone he saw coming from an event being held at the FedEx Forum. Cops confiscated several weapons while searching Hyman's apartment. The 28-year-old was charged with commission of the act of terrorism. Yo Gotti took to Twitter to thank the cops for their work that night. We were informed of a potential threat regarding an individual seeking to harm attendees leaving birthday bash that occurred 3 hours after our show ended, he tweeted. I would also like to thank the Memphis Police Department for their swift and proactive action in ensuring that all attendees returned home safely. While retaliation towards Yo Gotti was not forthcoming, other people with ties to Young Dolph's murder started getting attacked and even killed. The first attack was on Justin Johnson, who was arrested on January 11, 2022 in Brazil, Indiana, after the U.S. Marshals announced a $15,000 reward for his capture. He was charged with several offenses, including 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of criminal attempted first-degree murder. According to reports, Johnson was reportedly attacked while in jail. Apparently, he was punched by another inmate while making a phone call. The 23-year-old was in the facility's visitation area when he was attacked. Later, in November 2022, Johnson asked to be transferred to another jail for safety reasons. He's had a change of heart due to some ongoing security and safety concerns, as well as conditions of confinement, Johnson's attorney told the judge. However, it was not clear whether the attack on Johnson or his safety concerns in jail were related in any way to Young Dolph's death. Johnson's attack was not the only one that people tried to connect to Dolph's death. In 2023, a man who had been named as a person of interest in the murder case was found dead.
Man once named as a person of interest in young Dolph's murder has now also been killed.
Joshua Taylor was named as a person of interest in the Dolph murder case in February 2022, and according to police reports, he was wanted on a number of other charges, including theft of property between $10,000 to $60,000 and possession of a prohibited weapon. Taylor was found shot to death inside a car and was also thought to have been a friend of Justin Johnson. It is important to note that cops never charged Taylor directly in the killing, and he had not been mentioned in the case. However, investigators reportedly wanted to find out if Taylor knew where Johnson was on the day of Dolph's killing, or if he knew anything about the murder. Taylor and Johnson were not the only ones involved in Dolph's case who have found themselves in danger. Yo Gotti and others have found themselves affected directly or indirectly. Privé restaurant. As we saw earlier, immediately after Young Dolph's death in 2021, there was widespread concern that Yo Gotti would be targeted since there was speculation that he was involved in Dolph's murder. However, nothing materialized. Well, that was until 2023 when the rapper's restaurant was attacked, leaving 2 dead and 5 others injured. Before getting to the tragic shooting, it is important to note that there was one other shooting that may have been directly involved with Young Dolph's murder.
Yeah, she went by Lotta Cash Desto, but her real name, Destiny Govan. Houston police say the 25-year-old was shot and killed in Houston.
So who was Lotta Cash Desto, and what does her death have to do with young Dolph? Well, Destiny Govin, alias Lotta Cash Desto, was the daughter of 43-year-old Hernandez Govin. Who exactly is Hernandez Govin? On November 10th, 2022, a third suspect was charged in connection with the murder of Memphis rapper Young Dolph. This was none other than Hernandez Govin. The 43-year-old was arrested and charged with arranging the murder of Young Dolph. According to police reports, Govin was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and criminal attempt first-degree murder, which he pleaded not guilty to. He is the only suspect of the three charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, which could indicate he planned to kill Young Dolph months before it happened. Interestingly, the day Young Dolph was murdered, Govin was in jail serving time for a June 2021 aggravated assault charge. However, Dovin's daughter's death raised a lot of eyebrows as people speculated that it was related to Dolph's case. Lotta Cash was a female rapper from Memphis, Tennessee. There are two theories surrounding the rapper's death. The first one involves her father, while the second one revolves around her Instagram activity. On September 24th, 2022, at around 2:30 a.m., Lotta Cash was driving a Porsche SUV with a 20-year-old female passenger. They stopped at a red light and a four-door sedan pulled alongside their SUV. Police say two men hopped out of the car and opened fire on the women. Lotta Cash was quick to draw her firearm and shoot back, catching one of the attackers in the abdomen. Unfortunately, the rapper was shot multiple times, robbed, and was pronounced dead at the scene. The female passenger was transported to a local hospital with a single gunshot wound. Christian Isaiah Williams was arrested shortly after the shooting. Williams was shot by Lotta Cash during the incident and was then located by cops in an adjacent parking lot suffering from a gunshot wound. He was taken to a local hospital before being taken into custody. A second suspect, Jeremiah Smith, was later arrested and charged with murder for the fatal shooting of the rising rapper. Police first put out a report stating that the rapper had been killed during an armed robbery. This may have been true for several reasons. First, the rapper was fond of posting photos while flexing large amounts of cash and expensive jewelry. Reports suggest that she was gunned down after she posed in Instagram photos with loads of cash. The robbers may have thought that she was carrying large sums of money after seeing the post and thought she was an easy target. They may have tried to get the money from her car without hurting her or the passenger, but Lotta Cash pulled her gun and fired, which caused the robbers to retaliate, killing the rapper. Because if it was a planned murder, she would never have found the chance to pull out her firearm and shoot Williams. The second theory surrounding the rapper's death involves her father, Hernandez Govin. This theory made headlines especially after Govin's social media post, where he seemed to blame his mistakes on his daughter's death. After his daughter's death, Govin took to Twitter to post a suspicious message. Insert pic. "I think I cursed you, Destiny, with my lifestyle. I apologize, baby," he posted. Although this happened before Govin was arrested for Dolph's murder, people quickly joined the dots and linked Lotta Cash's death to young Dolph's case. Lotta Cash Desto was not the only one who was caught in the crossfire. Innocent civilians lost their lives while others were injured.
Night of violence. In one case, there were 7 victims following a mass shooting, and 2 did not survive. Police were called to a popular Hickory Hill restaurant owned by rapper Gotti. Outside the restaurant, shots were fired.
A restaurant with ties to rapper Gotti was the scene of a shooting on March 30th, 2023, that left 2 people dead and 5 injured in Memphis, Tennessee. According to sources, the shooting took place just after closing time at Privé, a soul food restaurant. Gotti bought the restaurant for his mother, Geraldine, who is the business manager as well as the chef. Cops were called to the scene, and upon arrival, they found 2 male victims, one of whom was pronounced dead, and the other who was taken to a local hospital, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Sources reported that the 5 additional shooting victims, including 4 males and 1 female, were all transported to hospitals in private vehicles after the shooting. According to police reports, the violence was sparked by an altercation that had started inside the restaurant. However, the rapper's attorney gave conflicting information to the press. According to him, the altercation started outside the restaurant, eventually leading to the shootings. On behalf of Privé, they've been in business for 10 years, and nothing like this has ever happened at their establishment, the attorney said, which contradicted the police statements that suggested that the altercation took place outside the restaurant. It happened out in the parking lot, and it ended up in a shootout. Nothing happened inside the restaurant. Despite any conflicting reports, they were closing, and this happened at the end of the evening in the parking lot. Despite the attorney's claims, a video obtained by TMZ showed a completely different story. The altercation that led to the deaths and injuries started inside the restaurant. In the footage, a crowded corridor inside Privé restaurant quickly turned into an all-out brawl, which seemed to center around one man in a red jacket and another in a blue one. There was a tense standoff between 5 to 8 people when the guy in red slammed into the whole group and someone tossed a drink. After that, total chaos ensued. The guy in the blue jacket was actually on crutches, but handed them to a woman and then joined the fight, repeatedly throwing punch after punch and dunking a chair on the man in red's head after he'd been knocked to the floor. Although security was able unable to separate the people fighting, the fight spilled outside in the parking lot. The video starts with one man already gunned down and the guy in blue hopping on one foot yelling at onlookers. He then opens fire with what appears to be a semi-automatic weapon, hitting a man in black several times. The footage shows him hobbling away from the scene as two bodies lay on the pavement. A few days after the shooting, 3 people were placed under arrest. These included Damone Sykes, Kendrick Gray, and Johnny Sanford. According to the Memphis Police Department, the video showed a man trying to detain the person responsible for the shooting, only to be shot with his own gun taken from him by Sykes. Sykes was charged with attempted first-degree murder, possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony, and robbery, even though he was shot 14 times. On the other hand, Sanford was charged with first-degree murder and being a convicted felon in possession of a handgun, while Gray was charged with attempted first-degree murder, possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony, and possession of a prohibited weapon. Was the shooting related in any way to young Dolph? We may never really know for now. However, one thing is for sure, any attack on Yo Gotti or his businesses will always raise suspicions and be linked with Dolph's murder. This is because people are convinced that Yo Gotti was somehow connected to the shooting. Since official sources do not mention whether the 3 suspects arrested were part of any gang, there is a lot of suspicion cast on Yo Gotti, especially by Dolph's fans. So why are people so convinced that Gotti was involved in Dolph's murder? Well, a lot has to do with their beef that lasted for years. Did Yo Gotti really kill Dolph? The Memphis rap scene was dominated by Yo Gotti, who achieved national prominence with hit singles such as I Know and Down in the DM. Not only had Yo Gotti's popularity increased, but he had also established his own empire thanks to his CMG imprint, which now houses talented artists such as 42 Dugg and Black Youngsta from Memphis. During Yo Gotti's reign, however, Young Dolph emerged as a formidable competitor. Young Dolph founded Paper Route Empire in 2008, and he quickly began to make a name for himself in the industry. Collaborations with rap game giants such as Gucci Mane further solidified his ascending status. In 2015, Young Dolph's popularity and fan base skyrocketed, placing him in direct competition with Yo Gotti, which resulted in a bitter rivalry. Young Dolph and Yo Gotti's feud achieved its pinnacle in 2016, with both artists engaging in a public feud, firing shots at each other through their music and social media. Young Dolph, known for his forthrightness, voiced his displeasure with Yo Gotti, specifically referencing the time he turned down Yo Gotti's offer to sign a record contract with CMG. From Young Dolph's perspective, Gotti took offense at Dolph's decision, establishing the groundwork for their ongoing animosity. Young Dolph's announcement that his debut album would be titled King of Memphis was an important point in the developing rivalry. Many were taken aback by this action, as Yo Gotti had long claimed the title for himself. Despite Gotti's silence on the subject, the Memphis rap community regarded Dolph's album title as a direct challenge to Gotti's claim to the throne. Despite the tension, Young Dolph attempted to tone down the conflict during a February 2016 radio show appearance. He appreciated Yo Gotti's early support in his career and explained that the title of his album was not intended as an insult, but rather reflected the mindset of himself and his crew, who considered themselves kings in their own right. However, tensions rose even more when Yo Gotti's CMG artist Black Youngsta publicly criticized Young Dolph in an Instagram video. Black Youngsta questioned Dolph's claim to be the king of Memphis and resorted to threats, demonstrating that the hatred between the two groups was serious. The conflict between Young Dolph and Yo Gotti reached new heights on March 2nd, 2016, when Black Youngsta showed up in Young Dolph's Memphis area. Black Youngsta was accompanied by a number of his goons as they roamed through South Memphis's Castalia neighborhood, reportedly looking for Young Dolph. While the two sides did not cross paths during this encounter, it was clear that their hostility went much deeper than a battle of words on social media and in their songs. During an interview with Tim Westwood on March 12, 2016, Yo Gotti talked about Black Youngsta's involvement in the dispute. Despite speculation that Gotti initiated the situation, the CMG head denied involvement for Youngsta's behavior, adding that he sees himself as a big brother figure to the young artist and warned him against dealing with issues with aggressiveness and threats.
What the f is going on with Dolph, baby? What is going on with Black Youngsta? What is going on, man?
Ain't nothing poppin', man. You know, little homie Young though. You know what I'm saying? Little homie Young and wild in the streets, and you know, they just move a little different. Team, so I'm always give them, you know, the proper advice.
While Young Dolph had mainly taken the high road throughout the conflict, by March 16, 2016, his patience had run out. Dolph openly responded against Yo Gotti in a series of Instagram posts, accusing him of harboring anger from Memphis rap icons like 3 6 Mafia and 8 Ball and MJG. He further alleged that Gotti sent Black Youngsta to fight his battles, and that he had even called the cops on him. Dolph stated unequivocally that he had no intention of ever signing with Gotti, and he also reminded him of his feud with Gucci Mane. hinting that Gotti's animosity towards him stemmed from his continuous relationship with Gucci. Black Youngstar wasted no time in responding to Dolph's harsh statements, releasing a diss track titled Shake Some, which he famously performed barely a month after Dolph's death. Youngstar criticized Young Dolph's Memphis ties and attacked his claim to be the city's king in the song. He also declared his devotion to Gotti and called Dolph's legitimacy and credentials as a Memphis musician into doubt. Black Youngstar declared the feud over months after clashing with Young Dolph in an interview with Vlad TV. Youngstar put an end to the rivalry by revealing that despite their feud, Yo Gotti actually liked Young Dolph, but Dolph refused to accept that it was resolved, leaving room for additional strife. Later, Young Dolph released the diss track Play With Your Bit, directed at Yo Gotti, which went viral. The song was brutal, as it made damning revelations of Dolph dating Gotti's baby mama. Many fans were eager to hear Yo Gotti's response to Young Dolph's scathing diss track, but Yo Gotti chose the high road by remaining mum about his feud with him. Yo Gotti would post on social media shortly after the song's release, bragging about his collaborations with A-listers like Jay-Z and L.A. Reid, and tagging a photo of himself with the words "never distracted." This was his subtle way of implying that he was disinterested about his rival's statements. Many people were astonished when Young Dolph decided to release a diss track after the long-running dispute between himself, Yo Gotti, and Black Youngstar had already been publicly resolved. However, during an appearance on DJ Holiday's radio show, Young Dolph clarified his actions and reasons. He pointed out that Yo Gotti's mixtapes had subtle disses aimed at him. Young Dolph stated that he would not stoop to Yo Gotti's level since he felt he was being used. Yo Gotti's long silence on the developing animosity with Young Dolph came to a conclusion after he issued his diss tune, Don't Beef With Me, where he cleverly avoided direct confrontation with his op. Young Dolph, never one to back down, responded with the release of his Play With Your Bitch music video. The video mocked Yo Gotti mercilessly. Dolph went all in, using a Gotti impersonator in the video, indicating that the animosity had reached new heights. Exactly one day after the video dropped, Yo Gotti seemed to retaliate, but this time with bullets. On February 25, 2017, news spread that Young Dolph had been targeted in a gunshot in Charlotte, North Carolina, escalating the rivalry. Over 100 shots were fired at his vehicle, but owing to his armored SUV, Dolph escaped unharmed. He went on the stage later that night, unfazed by the event, and performed his Yo Gotti diss hit, Play With Your Bitch. The message was clear. He was not going to back down. However, Young Dolph appeared to have changed his mind. During an interview, he called his battle with Yo Gotti old news, turning his focus to the future rather than the past. The beef seems to have been put to bed for the time being. A tragedy occurred just as the animosity appeared to be cooling. On September 26, 2017, Young Dolph was again the victim of a shooting, this time in Hollywood. Details on the incident were scant as she was rushed to the hospital. Yo Gotti was named a person of interest by the LAPD after an altercation between their entourages escalated into gunfire. However, the Los Angeles Police Department reaffirmed a day later that Yo Gotti was not a person of interest in the shooting, denying the early reports. Corey McClendon, a Yo Gotti associate, was instead charged with attempted murder in connection with the incident. As the investigation progressed, Corey McClendon was unexpectedly freed without prosecution on September 28, 2017. Despite the absence of arrests, the animosity between the two artists was evident, keeping fans and the wider public on edge, wondering if the rivalry would ever be completely settled. This long-running feud between the two rappers that had seen Dolph shot at twice had convinced people that Yo Gotti had something to do with Dolph's death. However, as the case continues, it is interesting to know what is revealed. Why did the suspects target Dolph and who called for the hit? If you enjoyed this video, click on the boxes playing on your screen to watch similar content.